So Dan, your thoughts on tonight, the sort of first step in a long process?
Yes. I thought we learned a lot tonight, and I think it exposed the complicated legal and human capital asset issues we're facing. We do not have a time frame on this necessarily because this is not something we think we can rush. That has been a problem in the past. We're giving everybody an opportunity to speak. Tonight you saw we even gave twice as much time for public speakers. We were hoping for more input than we got because we really do want full employee engagement. This is something we do not want to just in an ad hoc basis try to throw a Band-Aid on. It's something that we hope is a long-term. As Councilor Hart said, we don't want to come back and be doing this every couple of years. We want to fix it as best we can so this, what happened in the past, doesn't repeat itself.
Councilor, what would you say was the number one major accomplishment today?
Realizing, I think, the extent and depth of the challenge, and that there are some questions that almost become rhetorical because their answers are so difficult, and that we're going to have to do a lot of homework and get a lot of professionals involved from a legal perspective, a financial perspective, before we come up with a policy that we think is effective and legal and withstand a constitutional attack.
I know there's no real timeline in regards to what's going to happen next, but it's been more than a year since the accusations. Is there some sort of estimate of roughly when there could be, some movable action in the future?
Well, we hope to have something by the end of the year in the sense of at least a more formal proposal, if you will. Meeting with legal and making sure we meet all constitutional muster is going to take time. If you're referring to the past report or the complaints that were filed, we consider that chapter closed. So there's no timeline with that because we are looking forward only at reforming the policy to prevent that from happening again.
So the city's top attorney cast doubt on one of the main recommendations in the Fisher-Phillips report for that separate office of an inspector general because of public records issues. I'm just wondering, what's your opinion on the Fisher-Phillips recommendations as they stand, given what we've learned tonight?
All those recommendations and the others that we've gotten many of them are just a preferred practice. And anytime you have a preferred practice, you have to boil it down to make sure it applies specifically to your situation. And as we heard tonight from the SHRM representative, their policies were just very neutral, and it was just what's the best thing to do. Being a public employer puts us in a special legal status so that we have a lot of additional parameters we must fit within because both the accused and the accuser have special rights as a public employee, and there's additional liability as a state actor that we have to be very careful of. So I appreciated his comments. I am not a constitutional specialist or a labor lawyer, so that's why we're going to have to consult those experts to really dig down and see what best fits our current situation. And I've read some materials about doing a multi-step phase-in program that might be more digestible for us and maybe more attractive from a fiscal standpoint as well, because again, looking down the barrel of Senate Bill 1, we're not going to have extra money to do a lot of new things. So to create something independent that brings a big price tag would be quite a challenge.
There seems to be a little bit of concern over HR. How do you do HR? How do you give people the ability to report? Do you do one way? Do you do multiple ways? Any thoughts on that part of with the sexual harassment issue in the city?
I think it came out tonight as a consistent message from several of the presenters and the speakers and from some of our own counselors is we need more than one path to report. Certain people may not be comfortable using one way, or as we've seen, if someone up the chain of command is involved in possibly the harassment, it makes little sense to mandate that person to follow that path. So one thing I did learn was I think a multiple path and more than one single reporting portal, and not only an anonymous thing, but something else too we need to explore, because I do think that seems like more of an attractive model to me at least.
As mentioned, of course, you said you guys want a high level of engagement throughout this. Did I hear correctly during that first presentation that only 33% of employees took that employee survey? That was part of this process?
I believe so. I didn't catch the exact number, but we may have to go back for additional input from the employees. I think you saw the push and pull when one of the public speakers mentioned, "Where's the public?" Well, there's only so much we can do to get the public to come. Why we had the meeting tonight was to bring people in to comment on these recommendations so we could hear them and hear the professional presenters. So some of our challenge is to make sure we get enough employees involved. And I think we'll probably do something more specifically targeted at that next time around.
What's your overall message to them? Maybe they wanted to come, but just didn't physically want to be seen, or what's your overall message?
Well, I understand from my discussions with some of the survivors camp that they're uncomfortable coming back. Many of them consider these a traumatic chapter they wish not to revisit. They want that closed. It's behind them. I think we saw possibly why there were no formal legal claims filed out of all this stuff that went on. And I just, I was told by a few specifically that I'm done with it, basically. But there are still, I think, enough, as we saw tonight, a feeling among the employees, and over, maybe not just sexual harassment, but there are cultural issues. We saw that we need to also, look from the top down and make sure the culture is consistent and encouraging and conducive so people feel comfortable coming forward.
Any thoughts on any conversation folks have had with the folks up on the 25th floor about all this?
We haven't had direct conversations yet. Before we really address them, we want to have more of a formal policy, something to talk about. Otherwise, it's just everything is still so scattered that it wouldn't be very meaningful or productive, in my opinion. So that's why we want to go back at a policy and get a little more input, listen to the employee surveys, look what the working groups are putting together, and meet with some of the additional professionals before we start putting pen to paper. Because some of it we foresee might be through legislative action. What we can do, as Councilor Hart mentioned, do through proposals, we will do. Others might just be a policy tweak that they recommend for the administration to adopt. Others might be a fiscal component where we have to go through and get the Office of Financial Management involved. So that's why, we're treading slowly because there's a lot in front of us.
What about the thought of an independent inspector general?
It's interesting, and we're looking at it. As I think we also noticed tonight, it was brought up a couple times, elected officials are kind of and I use the word unicorn, meaning unique, not necessarily special by any means, because we don't fall under hardly any employee manual. As we've seen throughout many levels of government, sexual harassment charges against elected officials are treated differently. And maybe one thing that popped in my mind is possibly we do not have, as a council, a harassment policy. Typically, as we've seen at the state level, any harassment charges, and the Democratic parties and the Republican Party all now have harassment policies. And claims that are brought forward, they pull out the policy and follow the policy, and the policies typically have ramifications in them. So that might be something we have to look at as well.
You can also impeach him. You can do that. You can do that too.
That's up to you, sir.
All right. Thanks, Dan. Thank you.
Thank you.